The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
The teller checking in for UFC Fight Night Raleigh, coming off a very profitable card, UFC 246. We definitely got to touch upon that. The great one, Conor McGregor, came through just as I said he would, although I did not have any type of bet on the notorious one. But I did go 2 for 3 and profited just about 4.5 units on the night. It was a great way to start off the year of 2020. My first victorious play of the night was Alexa Kamur, who defeated Justin Ledet. I was looking forward to that match for quite a while. I definitely felt that I'd be able to get Kamur at a nice line, and I did. I know this was his first UFC fight. It was his UFC debut. Not a lot of people know about the guy. I like what I've seen from him on the Contender Series. I like the fact that he's training with Stipe Miocic. They're obviously very tight. You saw that Stipe came and visited him, or came out and watched them fight. So, they're putting in a lot of time together, and that definitely goes a long way. Justin Ledet, that guy's flaky. I expect that to be his last fight inside the octagon. He's a decent fighter. I think maybe he can fight in Bellator or whatnot, but he's not going to be defeating these young, hungry prospects like Kamur. So that was a nice bet to hit. After that, we capitalized on Sodiq Yusuff, who took out Andre Fili. I just felt that Yusuff was going to be too strong for him, especially even with the stand-up. I felt he'd be too powerful. He would check Fili's kicks. He would throw more powerful leg kicks back, and he would just brutalize Fili. He even surprised me a little bit. I expected him to be stronger in the clinch and stronger with his grappling if they took it there, but not as dominant as he was. He's really showing some new wrinkles in his game, so that was another solid hit. So that was my second hit for the night. And then my third play was Odi Osborne, who definitely dropped the ball against Brian Kelleher. I definitely think that's a fight. If they ran back 10 times, it can easily go 5 one way, 5 the other. It was a very close fight. Don't get me wrong, Kelleher pulled off a beautiful submission. He looked great in the fight. I just felt that Odi, right when the fight started, looked to be the quicker, more athletic fighter, which is what I thought that he would be. But I wasn't expecting him to be as such a novice on the ground and on the mat. And maybe I underestimated Kelleher a little bit. Shout out to Kelleher. I said it last time too, man. This is all business. I did pick against him, but I'm cool with the guy. We've spoken a couple times. And, I sent him a message, and, he responded. He's a cool dude, and he understands what it is, and it's nothing personal here. So now, you guys, I do want to apologize for any background noise that you guys hear in this video. I am recording this as I drive around beautiful, cold South Florida. We had a nice little cold front that came down here, although I'm sure it's a lot warmer than where the rest of you guys are still, even as chilly as it is over here. I'm looking at my dashboard. It says it's 54 degrees down here. So, we like that. We like that kind of weather when it comes around once in a while. But I want to get this video out sooner than later. And if I don't record this here now and I wait to get back to the studio, it's not going to be put out till possibly tomorrow. So just excuse that background noise. So we talked about the bets. Another profitable event, a great way to start the year of 2020. We're going to have a lot more of those types of cards throughout this year. But we got to talk about UFC 246. Other than just the bets, we got to talk about the notorious one, Conor McGregor. What an amazing performance. The way he threw the shoulder strikes, eventually setting up the head kick. Which, in my opinion, that head kick set up the TKO. It was just an amazing performance by Conor McGregor. Usually Cowboy Cerrone's the guy that's head kicking people, and then the notorious one made it a point to finish Cowboy setting it up with a head kick. I thought it was pretty amazing. But the shoulder strikes were just truly beautiful as well. You just don't see anyone doing anything like that. And I bet you're going to start to see a lot of people start to work those shoulder strikes. If you hit them in the right place, if you're precise with it, the way that Conor is precise with all his strikes, you see the amount of damage they can inflict. I'm not sure if he broke Cowboy's nose, but he bloodied it up right away. For any of you guys that know how it feels to get a bloody nose, let alone a broken nose, you know how that is, man. It's very disorienting. It's hard to open your eyes. Your eyes start to water. It's tough. So I truly believe that those shoulder strikes set up that head kick because Cowboy admitted it himself. So I mean, it just really set him off, and he kind of lost sight out there of what he was doing, and the notorious one will just run in and just finish you like a piranha, you're a fucking half chewed up rat getting dumped in the tank, and a piranha is just gonna go in there and just finish your ass. I was pumped. I was at a big party. I was jumping up and down. I was going crazy. I really enjoyed it. From my video that I posted last week, I do see that we have some Conor haters. I know a lot of you guys were a little disappointed, I guess, how much I was praising Conor. So sorry about that. I will try to respect you guys a little bit. I know some of you guys don't like Conor, but hopefully you respect what he does inside the octagon. Other than that, Holly Holm looked pretty dominant with her grappling in the rematch. Shout out to Holly. We'll see who she gets set up with next. Maybe we can fade her and make some money against her because she's not the same fighter. And then other than that, it was a solid card. It really was a solid card overall. And not just my bets, just my overall selections were very solid on the night. Just fading certain fighters. My early picks were all on point. One of my only losses on the night was Macy Barber, but I'm sure all you guys had Macy Barber to win that fight, so hopefully you guys aren't too hard on me on that one. What'd you guys think about that fight, Macy Barber? She was so... I don't know if I like that chick anymore. I kind of liked her energy from the beginning. I like how she was aggressive, calling out Paige Van Zandt and everything. I do not like the way that she grabbed the mic, took the mic over after losing. It wasn't her time to speak. It was the Happy Warriors' time to speak. That's a young lady or an old lady that's been around the game for a long time, and that was probably the biggest win of her career. Do not infringe on her time on the mic. That was her time. She should have been able to use all of it. So I didn't like that. I kind of feel like Macy Barber's entitled, and I think she definitely shows some holes in her game. I don't know if it was just the knee. I think that she has some work to do. She needs to polish up her game. She really does. So. Other than that, Anthony Pettis lost, of course, just as I thought he would. That would have been another bet that I would have took, except for I didn't really like where the line was. But I definitely had Pettis losing that fight, and that guy's really on the outskirts. He's going to be losing to a lot of guys, I'm telling you guys. You can expect that we'll be fading him moving forward. So on that note, I guess there's nothing else to do besides jump into the first fight of the event. We got Nate Landwehr taking on Herbert Burns. Of course, Herbert Burns, the brother of Gilbert Burns, who's really been on a tear as of recently. It's funny, this guy, Herbert Burns, used to date a girl that a buddy of mine dated a girl that lived with her. So it's funny, he used to see him over there all the time. They kind of hang out in the same house and whatnot. And my buddy used to tell me, hey, watch out for Gilbert Burns' brother. And this was when Gilbert Burns was barely known, too. He was just barely entering the UFC. So... it was just funny to see as both them progressed, and now Herbert Burns making his UFC debut looked good on the Dana White's Contender Series show. His jiu-jitsu looked good, at least. He showed some holes in his game, in my opinion. I think that if he doesn't get the submission, he's gonna lose to a lot of these tougher, well-rounded type of fighters that have good sub defense, that can stuff the takedown, use their striking to beat him, or if they can just avoid that submission and even work their ground and pound. That wouldn't be the route I would recommend to go fighting Herbert, but I could see this guy losing some fights. I don't know how long he's really going to last in the UFC. I could be wrong. His jiu-jitsu is great. It really is great, and I think it's going to get him out of the hole in a lot of fights where he may be down and may just pull off a sub, or there's going to be some guys that are just not even going to be able to keep up with him in the grappling field, and when they go down in his world, he's going to sub them. He's going to dominate them. But this guy Nate, this guy looks like he's in very good shape. He's been fighting over in Russia. The dude's a very tough guy. He's been fighting in M1 Global, has a lot of victories. As I stated, this guy's in very good shape. He's well-rounded. I think it's a close fight. I think if he avoids the submission, though, I kind of picture him winning this fight from what I've seen on tape. I think he'll avoid that submission, stay out of trouble. He's only been subbed once in his career. Doesn't have a lot of fights, but he's only been subbed once, rear naked choke. So I'm going to take Nate to win this fight. It's a hard one to call. I wouldn't be surprised if Herbert pulls off the submission, but my gut tells me Nate. In the next fight, we got Tony Gravely taking on Brett Johns. Of course, Brett Johns fighting out of Wales. This was a guy that was undefeated, had a lot of hype behind him a while ago. Since then, lost his last two fights, just as I expected that he would. It took a big step up in competition, fighting guys like Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling. You saw how those fights went. So before that, he pulled off that nice calf slicer against Joe Soto. A lot of people were starting to believe into what he was bringing to the table, but I really wasn't buying it. I don't like his movement. He's a little stiff and unathletic. I mean, I do think he'll pull off some wins in the octagon, that's for sure. He has already in the past, and I think he will continue to do that here and there. But it has to be against the right opponent. This guy, Tony Gravely, I kind of like what I've seen from him. This guy has a knack for winning fights, continues to win fights. Like I said, looked good on the Dana White's Contender Series fight. Went out there, got the finish, wins fights like crazy. And if you look at the guys that he's lost to within his long resume, it's to all guys of notable recognition. I mean, he lost to guys like Patrick Mix, Ricky Bandejas. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's a decent fighter over in Bellator. He was the guy that front kicked Gallagher right to the face, finished Gallagher, handed Gallagher his first loss of his career. He's also lost to guys like Merab Davashvili, Manny Bermudez. I mean, those are solid fighters over there in the Northeast. So, this guy has not been shying away from competition. He's fighting top tier competition on the lower scenes, and has been. So, I like what this guy brings. I like what this guy Tony's about. I'm gonna pick Tony Gravely to win this fight. I think he's gonna be more athletic. I think he has more power, and I just think he's overall the better fighter. If Brett Johns was to pull this off, maybe he uses his fighter IQ, pulls off a savvy submission somehow or whatnot, but if I had to pick a side, I think it's somewhat of a close fight, but if I had to pick a side, I'm going Gravely to win the fight, and the line is basically a pick 'em too, so there's potential value there as well. We got some women throwing down in the next fight. We got Sarah McMahon taking on Lena Landsberg. Sarah McMahon, you guys know the deal with her. She's been around forever. Olympian wrestling credentials. This girl's wrestling is the real deal. However, as far as her MMA career, in my opinion, it's been a major letdown. I feel like she had the potential to be a reigning champion. I mean, you've seen it time and time again when it comes to women's mixed martial arts. Use Ronda Rousey as an example. You see the chick over in PFL. When you're a specialist, the way that Sarah McMahon is, you would expect, especially in women's mixed martial arts, that you can get away with being just that specialist and absolutely dominate. Sarah McMahon was never able to do that, and I think that had a lot to do with her fighter IQ and her fight toughness. Yeah, she's tough. She's a tough wrestler, but she's really not the toughest MMA fighter out there. So, and I think that's why you see that she's had a lot of losses on her record. Coming off 2 losses right now. She just lost to Marion Renaud. Other than that, she lost to Caitlin Vieira, and then you see Caitlin Vieira just went out there and she lost. So Vieira was all hyped up, after beating McMahon. But not to take anything away from Vieira, she's a good fighter. But you see the route I'm going. I mean, Sarah McMahon, she's always had this big name. And then you go over to Lena Landsberg. Lena Landsberg is a fighter a lot of people were tough on. She lost to big, tough fighters like Chris Cyborg, the Russian fighter Yuna. I mean, these are big fighters that are very skilled. She lost to those girls. She lost to Aspen Ladd too. Aspen Ladd is not a small girl either. So, no real shame in those losses. And since then, Lena Landsberg really impressed with the victory over Macy Chiasson. She was a big underdog in that fight. She came through in a big way. She was stuffing takedowns, using her striking. And I think that her career right now is definitely at a peak. I think she's in the prime of her career. Sarah McMahon is definitely on the downslope. And I don't really think that Sarah McMahon was that good to begin with. So the line's close in this fight. I'm going to take Lena Landsberg to win this fight. I think she has to stuff the takedowns, of course. She has to keep this fight on the feet. Even if she gets taken down, she has to get right back up. We've seen her do it as of recently, and she could definitely pull that off. But she doesn't want to get smothered and held down for 3 rounds, obviously, because that's going to be an L. And Sarah McMahon does have the capabilities to do that. But if I have to pick a side on this fight too, I'm going to go at Lena Landsberg. We got a big-time favorite here in Montel Jackson taking on Felipe Coleres, the Brazilian. And it's understandable. This guy, Montel Jackson, everyone's really high on him. He has the big old hands. His grappling has really evolved quickly for what his wrestling credentials are and whatnot. And Montel Jackson's a solid fighter. I'll tell you, in his last fight, the line was high, but I took him. I used him in a parlay. That was quite a while ago, so he's had quite a little bit of a layoff here. And it's funny, I took him against Andre Sukumtat, and I guess Andre Sukumtat does tune into the show once in a while because, I kid you not, I bumped into him at the local beach. You can check my Instagram. You can see a picture of me and him, and an extremely cool dude. I saw him with the family. I went up and went to say what's up to him. And before I could even say, I knew who he was or whatnot, he already let me know he knew who I was, and he wasn't too happy with what I had to say about my breakdown with him and Montel Jackson. But I try to keep it real with him. I just say, hey, I break it down how I think the fight's going to go, and that's what I do. It's strictly business. It's never personal with any of these fighters. I think Andre Sukumtat's a solid fighter. And there was no real shame in losing to Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson, this is a guy that has potential to be fighting for the belt one day. So, Montel Jackson absolutely just, manhandled him the way that I said that he would too. So it wasn't even like I wasn't speaking facts, or what I had thought at the time to be future facts. So, funny little story, but and here we go again. Montel Jackson taking off Felipe Coleres. I'm going to tell you again, Montel Jackson's going to go out here and he's going to handle business. I truly believe that. Felipe does have good jiu-jitsu. If he's able to pull off a submission, that would be one way you can get the big underdog victory. But I don't necessarily see that happening. Montel Jackson's grappling is only getting better by the day. He's extremely strong. His striking is getting better as well. So, he's going to stuff. If you try to get to the mat, you're not going to be able to get it to the mat. And he's going to pick you apart in the feet. So, if he does choose to go to the mat, which I think he shouldn't, I think he should keep it on the feet and just dominate the striking. If he chooses to go to the mat as well, he's probably going to avoid the takedowns, the submissions as well, and probably just brutalize him with some ground and pound. That's how I see it going. Montel Jackson coming off 2 solid victories against Brian Kelleher, who we just saw. Brian Kelleher is a decent fighter. Nice little submission he just pulled off this past weekend. He handed him a loss there. And, we touched upon Andre Sukumtat. And before that, he did lose to Ricky Simon. Ricky Simon's a solid fighter, and that was a very close fight. And I think if you ran that fight back now, I think Montel Jackson would take that. Montel Jackson's just a very green fighter. We've been seeing this fighter evolve right in front of us since Dana White's Contender Series and whatnot. So it's tough to really bet on this guy, though. The line's always extremely high. Down the line, we're going to catch him. We're going to get him at some closer lines. But then again, he's going to be fighting some top-level competition. So we'll have to hit the tape and see if it's worth whatever line we can get him at, and see if it's a future potential play. Lucy Putty Lover taking on Justine Quiche. Lucy Putty Lover, this is a girl that I've made money on in the past. And obviously that was a long time ago because she hasn't won a fight in her past 3 bouts. So although she did win one of them, but the judges absolutely robbed her in that. And in my opinion, that was definitely a top 10 all-time robbery, just based on the fact that it was in her hometown, in her home country, which was the first time they ever did a UFC event there, and probably the last time they're going to do one for a long time. The fact that the crowd was going crazy for her, and the fact that she won that fight against Liz Carmouche, did the most damage in that fight. Liz Carmouche kept just trying to get takedowns and just hold her, wasn't inflicting any type of damage on her. I was truly, truly shocked when the judges turned their cards in, and the announcer said that Liz Carmouche won that fight. But so, you look at that loss, then you look at her last loss against Antonina Shevchenko, who's a very talented striker whose game's really coming around. And then before that, she did lose to another solid fighter. She lost to Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana, you see what she's doing, just took out Ketlin Vieira. Irene Aldana is dangerous. So no real shame in those 3 bouts. Then you look at Justine Quiche coming off 2 losses. Lost to the Korean fighter in her last fighter, Kim. Before that, she lost to Felice Herrig. That's not a good look these days. And I'm just overall not the biggest fan of Justine. She's a little meat and potato type of fighter. Nothing really stands out too much. She's tough. But I think Lucy's going to be way more athletic. Her footwork's going to be better. Her striking's better. Her grappling's getting better by the day. She's very young. She started out as a striker, so the grappling is going to slowly come around. But the pure striking is just going to be way better than Justine's, in my opinion. And I like Lucy to win this fight. Arnold Almighty Allen taking on Nick the Carney Lentz. Nick Lentz, this is a guy. This guy's been a spoiler a couple times in the past, so make sure you're careful when you're betting against him. Getting up there in age, though, almost 36 years old, just putting a lot of time at American Top Team throughout his career. The guy is definitely a skilled fighter, not the most athletic guy, but very well-rounded. I've seen him down here in South Florida driving around the streets before, back in the day when he had his whole Minnesota license plate and all. It's funny seeing that guy around the way. Arnold Allen, this is a guy I feel the UFC brass is trying to make the new face of the UK as far as MMA goes, fighting out of England. The dude, he's a very, very strong fighter, very skilled fighter. He's put it in time at TriStar. The dude's only 26 years old. So check that out. As long as he's been in the UFC, he's only 26 years old. This is a guy that's going to be a true threat one day. I believe by the time he's 30 years old, his game will be very well put together. Now, as far as people that he's beat inside the UFC right now, I wouldn't say there's really any big names. I mean, Gilbert Melendez is about as big as it gets, but I mean, you can't even count that. Gil was at the end of his career, and it was in no shape to even be inside the octagon, if you ask me. Tends to go to decision a lot. His only finish as of recently was against Mads Burnell. He had that front choke. That was a nice little finish. Mads Burnell is actually not that bad of a fighter. But the narrative of Arnold Allen's career is let him keep getting better, and eventually maybe he could be one of the true English fighters that can carry the nation inside the octagon. So. He has Nick Lentz in front of him. So, if you catch my drift, the UFC keeps giving him guys like this. Nick Lentz actually has a decent name, but this is a guy that he should lose to. And being, Nick Lentz should lose to Arnold Allen. But as I spoke about, Nick Lentz has played spoiler role plenty of times, especially in that Will Brooks fight. Although Will Brooks ended up being a complete scam anyway. The guy just can never even win a fight inside the octagon. But, he's taken out Scott Holtzman as of recently. Scott Holtzman is actually a solid fighter, so that was a pretty big win. And then he's coming off that loss against Charles Oliveira. You don't beat Charles Oliveira right now. So, and Charles has a big fight coming up too. So definitely want to be, not to drift away from this fight, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that Kevin Lee versus Charles Oliveira fight. But getting back to this fight, Arnold Allen's definitely the guy to win this fight, in my opinion. Wouldn't be shocked if Nick shows up and pulls something out of his ass. But this is Arnold's fight to win. I think his striking has come around. I think he can keep this fight on the feet. He could use his length. He'll be the taller fighter with a little bit of a reach in there. I think he could use his length, and I think his striking is overall better than Nick's right now anyway. And Nick's just on the decline. He was supposed to be fighting BJ Penn here. Of course, you guys remember what happened with that. BJ Penn ended up getting in all those bar fights. UFC says it's not going to happen. I think Nick Lentz would have been in a lot better position if he was fighting BJ Penn right now than fighting Arnold Allen, because I think Arnold Allen's going to get the victory. We got Bavon Lewis taking on Daquan Townsend. Once again, Bavon Lewis coming in as a heavy favorite. The last two times he came in as the favorite, he lost both of those fights. He lost both of his UFC fights since his UFC debut against Uriah Hall, and then his last fight against Darren Stewart. He did look good on Dana White's Contender Series against Alton Cunningham, but as I said, since entering the octagon, has not tasted a victory. The UFC just seems to love throwing this guy in with another brother because, Dana White's Contender Series against Alton Cunningham, Uriah Hall, Darren Stewart, and now Daquan Townsend. Daquan Townsend, we'll touch up on him real quick. This is a guy, the UFC's given a chance. Had a very, very tough fight in his last match against Dalcha Lingjiambula. You guys know that African fighter. He's a tough dude. He since got put to sleep, though. Let's not forget about that. But anyways, these guys had a tough matchup. And Daquan really looked tough in that fight. That's the point I want to make. He really looked tough in that fight. He's not the most skilled, but he's a big boy. He could take a shot. And if he's going to win this fight, he has to pressure Bavon Lewis. We saw how Bavon looked in his last fight against Darren Stewart. Darren Stewart started to pressure him, started to throw those haymakers on him, started to crack him a little bit. Bavon Lewis completely changed his game plan. He was on his back foot, did not want to engage whatsoever. So this is a guy, training out of Jackson Wink. This is a guy in Bavon Lewis that, in my opinion, may be a little bit mentally weak. Bit mentally weak compared to him being actually quite the gifted athlete. So, Or you got a guy like Daquan Townsend, who's maybe not mentally weak, kind of a tough fighter, but not as skilled as Bevon Lewis. So this is a pretty tough matchup, in my opinion. I think the line could be off. I do expect Bevon Lewis to win the fight, but I would not be surprised in the least bit. Also, if Daquan came in there and maybe landed a big shot or just started to bully Bevon Lewis. I really did not like what I saw from Bevon Lewis in both of his UFC fights over here. So, but I still will go with Bevon Lewis. I think he gets his first UFC victory here this weekend. In back-to-back light heavyweight matchups, we got Darko Stosic taking on Jamal Hill, who is coming off Dana White's Contender Series as well. It's crazy. It's just like fighter after fighter is coming off that series. I mean, that's definitely the new way to get inside the octagon nowadays. That's like the farm system. This guy Jamal Hill looked very good on the show. Got a finish in the second round against Alexander Popik, and that line was close when they were fighting. So that was a fight that it wasn't like everyone expected Jamal Hill just to go out there and handle work, but definitely made a name for himself in that fight. The guy's undefeated, has never tasted defeat, amateur or professional. The dude's tall, he's rangy, he's athletic. And now you got a guy that he's taking on, he's fighting this guy, Darko Stosic. Darko Stosic, I mean, you guys know the deal with him. This guy is, in my opinion, is a fighter that's very skilled. He's very well-rounded, but has horrible cardio, doesn't like to push the pace. He gasses out very, very easily, which in my opinion would be his major downfall. But he's a skilled fighter. He's coming off 2 losses, two fights that he should have easily won, in my opinion. He was the more skilled fighter in there against Devin Clark. He was the more skilled fighter in his last fight against Kennedy. And that both those fights, I mean, it was such a close fight that came down to the judge's decision, where, in my opinion, it didn't really have to be. If he had a better set of cardio, man, he could have got some more takedowns. He could have solidified the rounds. He could have held the other fighter down. He does also carry a lot of power. We saw in his UFC debut where he finished Jeremy Kimball. The guy, he definitely has some nasty power, so he can finish anyone that he steps in there with. I really want to take him in this fight, but my gut just tells me that Jamal Hill will be a little bit more athletic. He'll be able to circle more. He'll have better cardio. And at this point, I don't know if I could trust Darko Stosic. I really don't know if I could trust him. And in the first round, I feel good that he'll be stronger in the clinch. I feel like he can get some takedowns. I feel like he could end the fight with his hands. But then what happens if he doesn't? And he starts to gas out, and then I got to sit there and watch that for the second and third rounds. Watch how that fight plays out, where he's just gassing out and Jamal Hill's peppering him up, dancing around, and just, taking his way straight to a unanimous decision victory. So I'm going to pick Jamal Hill to win the fight. But this is a very close fight, and the line is pretty accurate, in my opinion. Jamal Hill is a very slight favorite. Fight could go any way, but I think that Jamal Hill is rightfully so the slight favorite. He should be the favorite here. In the second fight of the main card, we got Angela Hill taking on Hannah Cifers. Angela Hill, this is a girl that started her career straight in the UFC, She only had one professional fight, and then after that, it was straight to the Ultimate Fighter show, where she really fought some top competition, Carla Esparza, Tisha Torres, Rose Namajunas. She lost all those fights, but that was to be expected, when you're just starting your career off and you're fighting girls like that. That's a tough spot to be in. After that, she won 4 fights in a row when she was sent over to Invicta. And since she's made her return, she's pretty much been a 500 fighter. You could pretty much flip the coin with Angela Hill, and that's what you're going to get. Of course, she does tend to lose to some of the more top talent, and she tends to pull off these victories against these mediocre type of women. She's coming off a win against Ariane Carnalosi. She got that finish in the third round. She did beat Jodie Escobar not too long ago as well. Jodie Escobar does kind of remind me of Hannah Cifers in a way. They're similar fighters, but I do believe Cifers is a little bit better of a fighter. Cifers with the 10-3 record. She's small, she's petite, but she's very muscular. She's actually decently strong. And she's coming off 2 wins as well. One against Jodie Escobar as well. So before that, she did beat Polyana Viana, who's really not all that. And then before that, she did lose to Macy Barber. Speak of the devil, Macy Barber, who ate a nice slice of humble pie this past weekend. Definitely interested to see her come back when she heals from her injury and see how mentally how she rebounds from that loss. But Back to Hannah Cyphers. Hannah Cyphers, I think she's a girl that's a little bit underrated based on her size. She's small, but as I said, she is strong. She's tough. She'll sit in the pocket. She'll throw down. If you tag her, she's going to come right back at you. I just think that this is Angela Hill's fight to win for the sheer fact that she has a nice reach advantage. She's going to be tall in there. She's going to use her footwork. I think she can keep this fight standing, and I just think that the reach is really going to help her. I think she's a better striker as well, and you would think this is Angela Hill's fight to win, but at the same time, you never know with her. I told you guys, she's pretty much a 50-50 fighter, so if you're getting odds around minus 180, minus 170, and you're kind of flipping a coin with her when she's in there, I don't know if that's the right play necessarily, but then you could also look at it in the other light where she should be the better fighter. She should have the better striking. She should pull this win off. I'm going to take her to win. I don't know if this is the fight I'm going to be betting on, but stay tuned and find out. So we're working our way right through the main card. We got Alex Perez taking on Jordan Espinosa. As you guys can see, I really didn't touch upon it earlier, but this card is pretty weak. There's a couple fights here and there. You got the co-main event and the main event, but other than that, take a look here. We got Jordan Espinosa taking on Alex Perez, in the co-main event. That's pretty crazy to see something like that. But nevertheless, it's another weekend of fights. I guess we can't complain. So, we got Jordan Espinosa coming in right around 2-1 underdog. Espinosa, not a bad fighter, not a great fighter, coming off a loss to Matt Schnell. Before that, he was handling business a little bit, took out Eric Shelton, was on quite a little bit of a win streak there. Alex Perez, on the other hand, this is a guy that really just doesn't lose. As of recently, his only loss was against Joseph Benavidez. Need I say any more? No shame in that. Joseph Benavidez is the truth. Looking forward to seeing him getting a title shot coming up soon. But Alex Perez, this is a guy that's taken out guys like Eric Shelton, Jose Shorty Torres, Mark De La Rosa. He's beaten decent fighters, and he continues to win. He's just, even the other guys, these guys' names that you wouldn't even recognize. He takes them out. A lot of finishes as well. Darce chokes, Anaconda chokes, Bravo chokes. The guy's a good fighter, man. This guy, he's very well-rounded, has power in his hands. The submissions that I spoke of, the guy's a well-rounded fighter. I definitely like Alex Perez to win this fight. But at the same time, Espinosa, not a bad fighter, maybe a little bit under the radar. He looks good on tape. He's also well-rounded. He can strike. He has jiu-jitsu and all that as well. But definitely got to go with Alex Perez to win this fight. And you keep an eye on the line. If you can get the, maybe if you guys grab this early, might have been a nice snipe. Or just keep an eye on where this line's going. Because Alex Perez, it's a little high right now to take him, maybe. But depending how you feel about it. But Alex Perez to win the fight. All right, we made it to the co-main event of the card, and now I'm a little excited to break down this fight. This is a fight I'm looking forward to. I think this is an excellent matchup. RDA finally getting somebody that's not a complete savage, although Chiesa is a savage, maybe not a complete savage. Poor RDA has been put through the burner as of recently, taking on guys like Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards. The guy, really, really tough welterweight fighters. He did have that win against Kevin Lee. He looked very good in that fight. Although, of course, Kevin Lee is not a welterweight fighter. He's a lightweight fighter, which, really, I would love to see RDA back at lightweight. I know the weight cut was tough for him, and I know he's beaten some of these, average type of welterweight fighters. He did take out Robbie Lawler, but, Robbie Lawler is definitely slowing down. I would like to see him back at lightweight. I think if he got back down there, he would have more of a real shot at ever winning the lightweight champion than he ever has at winning the welterweight champion, because it's just not going to happen. You saw the level of these fighters that we have nowadays. Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, in my opinion, was one of the highest caliber welterweight title fights I've ever seen. They didn't even use their wrestling because they basically negated themselves with their wrestling. But even their striking has been coming around, but their toughness is just second to none. One of those guys is going to be the champion, whether you guys like it or not. Usman won the first fight. I could see Colby winning a rematch. You never know. But good luck to Jorge Masvidal. If Jorge Masvidal doesn't flying knee those guys early, he's going to get beat up. I'm telling you guys. In a 5-round fight, I just don't see it. And that's what happened with RDA. RDA was just continuously taken down, beat to a pulp. And now he's fighting a guy, Michael Chiesa, that's a very solid grappler. He's a very good grappler. But, he's also, this is a good fight for RDA because Chiesa is a true lightweight too, At least he started his career as a lightweight. I would say he's more of a natural welterweight than RDA is. He does have a very big frame, so he does kind of fill into welterweight a little bit better than RDA does. But, like I said, he's fought at lightweight before. I don't expect him to come out here and just brutalize RDA the way that Usman did and Covington did. And even the way Leon Edwards did as well. Shout out to Leon Edwards, too, a very underrated fighter. I'm looking forward to seeing him take on T. Wood. Got to keep an eye on that line. Back to this fight. Michael Chiesa, good jiu-jitsu. Striking's, it's not all that. He's tough, though. He'll keep walking you down. He's rangy. He's a nice, uses that southpaw. He's a little deceptive with his striking, with his range and whatnot. But I just think that RDA, based on the level of competition that he's been fighting, I think it's really going to sharpen his sword up, and I think he's going to come out here and take this fight. I think he's going to take Chiesa out. I really do. I think he'll be able to keep this fight on the feet if he wants to avoid Chiesa's jiu-jitsu. I think he'll use his leg kicks, he'll use his punches, and he'll take Chiesa. I don't know if he's going to finish him. He could finish him. I could see a finish happening here, but maybe more likely a decision. Maybe Chiesa, his toughness, he'll use his toughness to survive the fight and get beat down on for a little bit. But that being said, also, Chiesa, like I said, his jiu-jitsu is very good, and he definitely is always live to pull off a submission. If RDA somehow gets pulled down to the mat or for some reason shoots in for a takedown in some type of way, Chiesa can quickly snatch up a neck. So definitely have to be worried about that. But I like RDA. Like I said, I like RDA coming into this fight. I think this is his fight to win. I really do. He's 35 years old. He's not quite over the hill as of right now. And I don't know if he's willing to do that weight cut, but if he pulls off a victory here, maybe he tries to do one more resurgence at the lightweight division. I think he would be a lot more likely to string off some victories and maybe push his way to a title shot if that's what he's looking to do before he retires. Not saying that that's realistic, but if he really wants some hope for what he's doing with his career, if he wants that, that bright shiny star at the end of the tunnel, if he wants to reach out for that, I think the lightweight route is the way to go. So I'll take Rafael Dos Anjos to win the fight. And here we are at the main event of the card. We got Curtis Razor Blades taking on Junior Cigano dos Santos. This is a solid heavyweight match. Definitely has implications on the heavyweight division. Curtis Blades, this guy is he's a terror. This guy's really been just wreaking havoc. His ground and pound is disgusting. You saw him in his last fight against Shamil Abdurakhimov. Absolutely just took him out, man. Just the ground and pound was nasty. Before that, put a clinic on Justin Willis. And then, of course, before that, he lost that fight, once again to Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou just seems to be his kryptonite. Francis Ngannou is the only man to ever defeat him, professional or amateur. So if it wasn't for Ngannou right now, Blades would really, really be at the top of the game. Or he'd be fighting for the belt at least. He would have fought already for the belt probably. So then, speaking of fighting for the belt, you got a guy in Junior Dos Santos. This guy's already been there, done that. He's been the heavyweight champion before. Also, he's coming off a loss. This guy also lost to Francis Ngannou. But before that, he took out Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, Blagoy Ivanov. Don't forget about Junior. He was doing his thing as of recently. And then, of course, he lost the rematch against Stipe Miocic before those 3 wins. Absolutely picked apart Ben Rothwell before that. So I think he still has the capabilities to pick apart a lot of heavyweight fighters in the feet, some of those slower type of heavyweight fighters. Curtis Blades is just a whole other animal, though. With his ground and pound, if he's able to get this fight to the mat, I think he can brutalize Junior Dos Santos there. I think he'll be quicker, more athletic, no matter where the fight goes. So he'll be able to probably dictate if this fight, takes place on the mat or if it's a stand-up match. I don't know if I could see Junior Dos Santos stuffing his takedowns for 5 rounds straight. And if the fight does play on the feet, Junior Dos Santos, his striking is not bad, of course. He's getting older, but it's like I said, his striking's still there. So he does carry the power as well. It's still the heavyweight division. If he connects, he can easily put out Curtis Blades. Curtis, like I said, he's only lost 2 fights against one man, and he's only been finished really in one of them. I guess the first time it was a doctor stoppage, but the shots that he took led to that. I mean, that cut being pretty nasty over the eye. So, I think his eyes swelled up really bad in that fight. So, I got to lean with Curtis Blades, of course. I got to say Curtis Blades is going to win this fight. It would really be hard just to pick against him right now. To pick Junior Dos Santos to win this fight would be a tough thing to do. Wouldn't be completely shocked if JDS pulls it off, but I would be pretty surprised. The line is pretty much accurate. Right around minus 250 is where I would expect it to be. I'll be pulling for JDS. I really hope JDS can win this fight. It would be a great little resurgence in his career. Maybe he could have one more little run at it, but I just don't see it happening. I see Curtis Blades, like I said, getting some takedowns. I think we'll even be surprised with his stand-up. He'll get the victory, and we'll start to see some big things from Curtis Blades. I expect to see some big fights coming forward for him. So there we go. That's the card. UFC Raleigh, North Carolina. I wish you guys a good card over there in North Carolina. I hope we have some exciting fights because I know there's not a lot of big names on the fight card. It's tough. You finally get a UFC event in your hometown, and not really much to look forward to. Hopefully, at least the co-main event, the heavyweight, will deliver. Hey, at least you guys got the UFC in your city. There's a lot of cities that don't even get the UFC, so I guess you can always appreciate that. Other than that, as we touched up on earlier, coming off another profitable card. As of right now, I only have 1 play on this card. I may possibly make it 2. Got to make a decision here very, very soon. By tomorrow morning, I would like to have that decision made. For those of you guys that are interested in joining the team, as always, reach out to me through Instagram. Hit me in the DM. Comment below. If you don't have Instagram, we can figure out another way to get in contact. My picks are always for sale. And I'm telling you, expect it to be a very, very profitable year. As it's been pretty much every year since I started. I haven't had 1 year that I wasn't profitable. And last year was a very, very solid year for me. So I expect it to only be better this year. I've learned a lot of new little tricks and trades throughout the years of the game. And I'm excited to show you guys card to card, what I bring to the table. So that being said, I'm going to sign out. You guys enjoy the fight. Signing out, the Teller.